told you this is not my home, but I told you I ain't rushing home. I told you I ain't going home till I'm done and it's my time to go. I told you I ain't made for you, but I told you I'll be here for you. I told you I will ride for you, but I told you I wouldn't die for you. What does it mean when I say that I am restless, that the fields are white in a world that is dying? What does it mean that creation is groaning, that the trees are on fire, but the water is sleeping beneath my boat? Hold on, bear a little while with me. So much to learn, but I'm learning to grow. By the way, in a little while I'll flow, living water from beneath the altar. Welcome to my joy. Welcome to my joy. I told you we got work to do. Told you we got love.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the show. Behind me now is the song Welcome to My Joy, which was sung by today's guest, who you're going to get to know in a bit. Let me just say I'm super excited to have this conversation. So, special shout out to my friend and sister, Fumi Okubanjo, for making this introduction. So there was one, I was going through her status, and Fumi had done almost like a lip sync to a song. Okay, one thing about Fumi is very, very introvertish. And you hardly see her just go, singing and posting anything on her WhatsApp. And she was so into the music and, miming it and just mouthing and singing. I'm like, okay, first of all, I really like the song. And number two, what's the song that is making Fumi go crazy like that on her WhatsApp status? And when I say crazy, it wasn't that she was doing anything crazy, but it was just out of element for Fumi, especially on her social media page. So I checked it out. I'm like, number one, I like this, do more of this, but who's this person and what song is this? She's like, he actually works in my office and he has a link to his song. And I started listening to it and I'm like, okay, I can see why. I can actually see myself doing the same thing for me doing. Because, I really enjoyed the song and it spoke a lot. And for me, okay, lyrics the sound will draw me in, but it's the lyric that will make me stay when it comes to a new music, because I have a thing for words. And his music for me feels like it's like poetry in a lyrical form. And of course, you can always tell that someone is a poet when you listen to their song. So today on the podcast, guys, is a singer, a songwriter, and a poet from Nigeria. He just released his album called Welcome to My Joy. And this was released February of this year. So everybody, please join me in welcoming Koli Ori Akpet to the podcast. Hi, Koli.
Hi, Mu, you said my name well. I'm so impressed. This almost never happens.
Really?
It almost never happens. I promise. Yes,
really?
my first name is
I was
just
so
4
proud of
letters,
myself.
and even that one, almost nobody gets it right. Thank you so much, Mo, for having me. Hi, everyone.
Did they call it Koli? Oh my gosh. Oh, thank you. I'm so happy to see you, and I'm glad you finally got this one. So let's even start with your name. Is this Cross River or Akwa Ibom? Where are you from?
Cross River.
Okay, I caught it the first time. So, just maybe walk us through, because I think you're the second person on the show that is from Cross River. And I think I love just how Nigeria is diverse. But I think that if you're not living in Lagos sometimes, you don't really get to see all of that, because we tend to kind of coagulate in, geographical zones that our forefathers were from, right? But Lagos, like I say, is a no man's land. Can you just walk us through how you grew up, and were you always in Lagos, and what does it mean for you to be from Cross River? Yes.
So, Mo, I'm from Cross River, but I almost never meet anyone from Cross River. A lot of the people I meet that from anywhere close to where I'm from are usually from Akwa Ibom. And of course, almost everybody thinks Cross River and Akwa Ibom.
I know. So, they did that separation in 1996 or so, sometime around then. Some people haven't released that from our minds.
And apart from that, there's also the fact that the closest relationship Akwa Ibom has to Cross River State is Calabar, and that is just one city in the whole state, because they speak Efik in Calabar and they speak Ibibio in Ibibio, Anang, other variations, but the languages are similar. But everywhere else in Cross River State, they don't even say water the same.
Wow.
Yeah, my parents' villages are just about 10 to 15 minutes apart from each other, and they don't even say water the same. And this was just my experience. I was used to diversity. I was used to all kinds of people. And they're from the same state.
Your mom and your dad are from the same state.
They are from the same state. They are from the same local government.
Wow.
But they have, so it's like that. But that's what I was used to. I was used to all kinds of people like existing together, and then you just know that people are different. But when I came to Lagos, that's when I learned that if you're not Yoruba and you're not Hausa, you're Igbo. And for those who even take it a step further, to know that, okay, everybody in the South is not Igbo, then you get the people that say, oh, you're Akwa Ibom. I say, no, I'm from Crash Valley. Like, Akwa Ibom. Basically the same thing. So it's I get that, like, for some people, it might not be, but particularly because of how diverse we are in Cross River State, and also the fact that my people are a minority, and then even within our state, even within the local government, there's not a lot of us. So having, even in our local government area, not a lot of people know us. So being identity matters, we don't really do English names. Every single one of your names would have to be a tribal name, would have to be a tribal name. So it's very important. Culture is very important to us because it's basically lost. My middle name or my last name, we don't know the meaning because a lot of the language is lost already. Yes, a lot of the language is lost. So the communities sometimes get absorbed by other communities. So culture, names, things like this are very, very important to you. Like, that's why I always violently say, no, I'm not from Akwa Ibom. I guess it needs to violently. But that's that. So yeah, I grew up in Calabar. I was in Calabar till I turned 17. But that's when I went to uni in Cyprus. And so till I was 16, I hadn't left Calabar. I don't think I left Cross River or maybe Akwa Ibom at the most. But between 17 and now, I've traveled to almost every part of Nigeria.
Wow.
And I've caught a bit of a travel bug. But
thanks for that education. I know that, Cross River and Akwa Ibom was different, and it was maybe not until not too long ago that I realized that even within those, there's so diversity of languages. I think my friend who's from Akwa Ibom was telling me how many languages is spoken. Because to us, if you're Cross River Akwa Ibom, I only even thought that they spoke only just a few languages. But it's always nice to, get all those.
True, and your friends have done well to tell you the difference, and you have done well to learn. Yes, it's so nice.
We keep learning. We have to keep learning, and this is why we like to have more people on the show to kind of talk about what their culture will mean. And I'm imagining that being a minority of the minority, you always have to feel like you have to keep teaching everybody you meet that, okay, 1, I'm not Igbo. 2, I'm not from Akwa Ibom. 3, I'm from this, little place, but it means this much to me because growing up, I didn't see myself as the same as everybody. We had our own, distinct set of culture, how we, explore the world through food, through language. But I mean, it's always refreshing to hear. So what does your first name mean? Even though you said your middle name, you guys don't have the meaning for it. I'm so sorry that language is going down. And you have to tell me what language that is, by the way.
So my language is Olulumo, and Koli means, when I was born, I was called Koli Kokam, which means God's goodness or God's favor. But, only Koli got into my birth certificate. So Koli means goodness or favor, but yeah, the full name is Koli Kokam.
Wow, that's quite Olulumo, right?
Yes, Olulumo.
Is that like under the Ikom language?
No. Check
sorry,
it out.
it's different.
It's one of the languages in Ikom. I'm so impressed. I'm saying,
really?
Check you out.
So I didn't know that slang. Well, shout out to my friend. I call her Sis. She's the one that, I learned that from her recently as well. So I know there's Ikom, there's Olulumon. I think there's is it Okuni also? Well, maybe I'm wrong. Anyways,
I'm from Okuni.
You're from Okuni?
No, you're. Like, I feel I'm trying to be coordinated, but I'm about to like legit freak out. I haven't like met anybody that knows where I'm from. Like, never.
I didn't.
Wow.
Well, see it again. My friend informed me of that. Anyways, so.
Wow. So for me, like, I've never met anyone who is not from Cross River, who knows about like Cross River, knows it. I'm so impressed.
Well,
thank you so much. I need like you did research before this. This is so nice.
I did because remember how you filled your survey like maybe like 2 days ago, and I'm actually currently at a conference. This is a hotel room. I've not had time to really dig deep into it. But as far as the language and your culture, I feel like this is the peak of my intelligence. Because if you ask me more things, I might just disappoint you. So let's stop here for now while I'm still in the peak of my wonder when it comes to you. So you moved to Lagos and then you're traveling around Nigeria. I mean, I think that's amazing balls. I think I'm a travel freak, but I haven't really conquered a lot of places in Nigeria. Not because I didn't want to, but as a time when I was trying to do all my travels, some places weren't quite stable. But I'm curious to know what took you around Nigeria quickly, and what would you say was your most interesting find?
Work and music. So I went to Jos because someone asked me to come sing. So I accept invitations based on interest and availability. So if I'm available, then I'll accept it because it's interesting to me. So there are generally some kinds of events that my manager may say do because it's good for your career, but there are some things I immediately say yes to because it's interesting. So somewhere an invitation to come sing somewhere so I've always known that I always felt like I would like the North because it's the closest. Generally, whenever I travel to the North, I remember Calabar. The people are generally sweet. They are not trying to, there's nothing impressive. They open when they open, they close when they close. There's no rush to become anything. Well, maybe the parts I went to, but the people I met generally have the same kind of vibe. So usually I would travel because of music or because of work. So that's what's taken me mostly to that. What was the most interesting thing I found?
Yes.
That's quite an interesting question. The most interesting thing I found is how Nigerians are everywhere. In the South, we are told so many things about the North and how they are so different from us. And, they sell you an image of what other religions even look like. And so we imbibe it and we fear them. And because we fear them, we start acting out towards them. However, the more I travel around Nigeria, I remember when I went to Maiduguri, the first thing that amazed me was that I was hearing Fireboy and Joe. These people, the image I had of Maiduguri is like bomb blast, people were praying even in the plane. When we were getting there, like everybody had their rosaries out and their beads and we're praying and there was so much fear even in the flight. And when I got there, it was just a normal place. There was nothing magnificent about them. There was nothing very, very spectacular. They are just Nigerians. So I think that's one thing that has amazed me about Nigeria the more I've traveled, is how very similar we are. We generally like the same things, And so Lagos is different, and then every other place in Nigeria is Nigeria.
It's fine. I won't knock it. I'm even though I'm from Lagos, and I think you're right. I think we have so much more in common than we give ourselves credit for. And it's sad that what we do to ourselves within Nigeria is no different from what the Western news outlets will say about us, like this single narratives and general stereotypes. But until you leave and you explore those places, I mean, I did my NYSC orientation in Jigawa, and I would go to Kano, once in a while, and I loved it. I love the people there, their simple way of life, and just, their openness. And if a northerner likes you, they give you everything. I mean, short of their spouse and all that. They don't have a lot of fluff around them. There's no pretense, you can always tell whether they like you or not. And sometimes I miss that simplicity. And I haven't grown up in Lagos. I feel like those things are kind of eroding. I feel like I don't live there anymore. But Lagos for me was always like an official bubble. And then I lived in Ibadan for a while. I worked in Ibadan as well. And I loved Ibadan. It took me a while to fall in love with the place because I had to find ways to kind of make life happen. And that's because I was a chronic negotiator. And moving to Ibadan was almost like, what is going on? But after a while, I'm like, life is easier. You don't have to run after a cab. You can just, take
I'm
the
going next
time.
week for the first time and I can't wait.
Oh, you should. Man, it's fun. It will blow your mind. It's different. And make sure if you go to the market, make sure you don't price too much. Because they will come for you. Ibadan people on their mouth. They will come for you, Koli. So make sure you just give them the money. Don't price it. If you're not going to buy, don't touch it. They will come for you. So we've talked about you growing up. We've talked about your travel. Now, remind me quickly from your family, how many siblings do you have, and what's your position?
So I'm number 3,
Okay.
and I have 3 other siblings. So we are a boy, a girl, me, and another girl. So it's boy, girl, boy, girl.
Oh.
And let me tell you something interesting about my family. Our birthdays are February, March, May, June, July, September.
What's going on there?
I don't know, but like they needed order, I guess.
I can see where your order comes from. Imagine just how they have to plan for birthdays. Like, I was like, September, we can take a breather. And then February, start again, Well, that's very interesting. So, you schooled in Lagos, it seems like, right? Like your university training was in Lagos, was it? Oh, you went to Cyprus, you said?
Oh, no, I went to, Green American University in Cyprus.
Okay, what did you, I know you have a law degree as well, right?
That's where I got my criminology degree from.
Okay, so why Cyprus? I mean, I know Cyprus, Turkey, and Malta are becoming more of a spot for Nigerians to go study. But what made you choose Cyprus? And and then your degree in law, what was that all about?
So I had no interest in going to Cyprus. I didn't even know anything about Cyprus other than I knew that there was a place called Cyprus, but that was about it. Why did I go to Cyprus? So at the time I finished secondary school, I got admission to Unilag, and I got admission into Unilag and to study law. But then there were some issues between the registration time and the time to move into the dormitories. I had some very serious issues that meant that like I couldn't resume in the law faculty, and I was told to go do international relations for 1 year. But I'd heard of all these deals where they tell people go and do this, and you graduate from the course that So I'd heard of all these things, and so I decided not to do that. I thought of LASU. So LASU also offered me a place at that time. I also thought of doing an A-level program and then perhaps go to the UK the next year. So I had those options. And then I stopped for a minute and decided to just go look online to see what's available. Then I started seeing schools in Canada. And Canada wasn't very big at that time. This was 2010. Oh. So Canada wasn't so big at that time. But then I applied to some schools in Canada. And then I was waiting for them. I waited first month, second month, I didn't hear. Third month, I didn't hear. And then while I was waiting, someone called me and said, that you know someone in Cyprus that I should try to get in. And so I just sent my things and my credentials and everything. And I think the next week I heard from them and they were like, oh yeah, you could come start in the spring semester in February. So it was easy to get in and I was happy to go. So that's how I ended up in Cyprus. It wasn't like a very well thought of plan. I didn't know anything about the place. I just knew one person who had gone there, someone who knew someone who had gone there and everything. So I went.
Oh, wow. So were you in Nicosia or what part of Cyprus were you based at?
I was in Kyrenia, Kyrenia American University. That's all.
Okay.
So I was in the Turkish part.
Oh, Turkish part. I was going to ask that. What was Cyprus like for you? Yeah,
Cyprus was quite interesting. So initially it was too much for me because I expected Obodo Yibo to be more lively, and then so when I was going, I didn't think I was going to a holiday resort kind of place. I thought I would go to a place where I see buildings and things happening and so on, and commerce and people selling and buying. But then I went to this place where they had hotels, resorts, old white people, and so like I just could not it took me a while to just adjust to the fact that I would be in this place, and like people didn't come out much. There wasn't much happening, but there didn't seem to be much happening at that time. There was also a very long drive from the airport, and most of the things I was seeing hay fields. And so I was like, this looks like some Southern American, some Southern American place, and then I didn't see so many black people, so it's important to see another black person.
Yes. Safety numbers, honey. I know that.
And so that's why it was overwhelming at first. But eventually I said love it. There was the Mediterranean Sea on this side, and then there was mountains on it. It looked like a postcard. It was so beautiful. And school was like a slice of some other place inside some holiday place. So school was very serious. Things were happening there, very academic, but outside was just like enjoyment. Basically, that's what was happening there. But yeah, eventually, like, I got to love it. I loved it with my entire heart.
Okay. Yeah. So, you know how universities, for example, can be quite like a bubble within, like, the outside of the university might be, a particular stream of people, but within the university, you're supposed to have like that diversity, like universe of diversity. Was that replicated in your university where maybe there were more international students or people from all over the world, and you could, maybe feel, at least all of you, like international students, for example, you have that shared experience of, misery and some misery loving company because you're always learning from home. Was that like that in your school?
It was. So there were a lot more international students than I expected in this school. I did. So yes, there were a lot. There were Russians. There were there were all kinds of Arabic people. There were all kinds of people. I met so many people while I was there. And the black community at the time I went, not black, African community, because we don't really know we are black, especially in Nigeria.
Yes, we don't.
Yeah, what I related more to was African, not black. So the African community was not very big at the time I went. At the time I went there, but by the time I was leaving, there was. Right now, like at the time I was leaving was when Cyprus started becoming a thing. You start hearing people going to Cyprus, Ukraine, and then that's when issues started coming up. There were a lot of issues, But at the time I went, not so much. So the community was small, but it was sufficient. So it was small. We were close to each other. We looked out for each other. We went everywhere together. Went to church, and it was church. There was enough for us. We had our own thing, and we had a blast.
Okay. So, and you studied law, and I know currently you work with Fumi. So what do you do? For those that don't really know what you do. So
for the past 5 years, I've been in-house counsel. So I had taken the job because of my interest in IP law and technology law. But currently, as of last month, I started heading partnerships and institutions. So I've been doing a bit of that, even though for those who are in-house counsels in startups, that it's not every day that your work has the legal flavor. Sometimes you do B2B deals, sometimes you help with partnerships. So I've been doing a bit of that, and so I was offered the role, and I was happy to take it. So because I wanted to do something a bit different. So now I head the partnerships and institutions department.
Okay, imagine that you're also merging your love for, technology, IP, and then also using your law degree as well. So that's your day job.
I'm using it the way I'm comfortable using it, non-traditional way.
That's great. I mean, not many people have that luxury, and to be able to do what you love and to be able to earn money from what you love, I think that's amazing. So let's talk about your creative side. You are a singer, a songwriter, and a poet. And Nigerian entertainment scene, as it were, and I hate to lump you under that, but it's the broad category for it, has really seen a lot of boom recently. I know with, social media being at the very forefront of that. How would you say it has been like for you? And especially in the space that is becoming, I want to say, ultra saturated. and you have to really work twice as hard to almost like make your voice distinct. I mean, nothing is really new under the sun, we know, but what makes it really different is the personality we infuse into it. Because there's nobody quite like Koli, right? So can you just walk us through what it has been like for you?
When I moved to Lagos in 2017, I moved to do music. I didn't come to use my law degree.
Hey,
I didn't
did
come
you tell your parents?
I didn't come to work.
Did you tell your parents?
To work. I came to sing. I came to, I was so when I came to Lagos with a bit of a chip on my shoulder. I was like, I'm this, I have this unique sound. I have this. I'm a child of academics, and they're not really about that life, And I think they knew. So music was part of my education. I did music all through primary, classical music programs. I was in high school, and so it had always been my life, and they were all aware. And in my family, people also sing, so it wasn't a thing. However, becoming a professional singer is a whole different ballgame from learning piano, from going to singing classes. So of course, they encouraged me, but they didn't think I'll take it so seriously. So I remember the first time I tried to audition for X Factor. I just finished secondary school. I was about 16 or 17. I wasn't allowed. I wasn't allowed to go do it because I was at my auntie's house and tried to, So I've always felt like, I had this thing that the world was looking for. And, once I just hold the mic, everybody's going to know that's the guy. And that's the kind of way I came to Lagos. And so I was in for a rude shock. First of all, wherever you think you are, there's about 12,000 of you who are ready to accept less, and ready to work more. Like in this, they will probably be sitting by you in the same place. You'll probably be shocked by the amount of talent that sits in the Lagos underG space. And so I was not the only one thinking of coming to wild Nigeria. And so the first encounter for me was humility. I had to learn. I had to learn humility. Also one other thing I learned was that there is no shortcut. And even if there was, I shouldn't want to take it.
Yeah.
Because if I don't learn on the journey, I'll learn on the job, and I'll rather learn on the journey.
Yeah.
I'll rather fail privately than publicly. So I came to Lagos. I met with a couple people. At that time, I just done a little project. I came to Lagos. Funny story. I met Cobans. I met a couple people. Played my music for them, and they're like, Your sound seems like you have a fresh sound. So I was asked, do you write poetry? I said yes. I thought that was a good thing. Apparently not. So
and for those that don't know, Koban is a very popular producer and a singer in Nigeria. We have non-Nigerian audience. I wanted to explain who Kobams was. Sorry, go ahead. Kobams Asoko, yeah.
Yeah, I met another producer, TYM. So I tried to, get into the space with somebody big, get into the big end of music immediately. I think one of the producers I met said to me, we need to know how an audience is going to receive you. Go audition for The Voice. So I went to try to audition for The Voice. I waited almost 10 hours to finally get, by the time I got in, the judges were not seated. They had left only this one guy, and then he was like, sing. I was like, wow, is that how it is? And so I already knew I was not going to get it. So it was a complete disaster. And so when I went home, I thought about it, and I thought of just what I was trying to do, not me trying to be successful, but me trying to just go straight to, the big play without any portfolio, without any, I had nothing. I had done nothing. I'd worked with nobody. I'd not paid my dues in any way. And I just wanted to, so this is some people's story, but it was clear to me that was not going to be my story. And I needed to, just sit, try to engage with my own audience, do my own thing, And I think that was the point I realized and decided that I was just going to focus on growing as an artist. And that is my only job. So when you say, so we get managers to help us with the business side, we go to labels. So there are several things that are another person's job, but my only job as an artist is to grow and continue to create. So that's why I focused on it. So I first went to go and dust my CV and look for a job because I was very hungry. Artists are not making that much money, especially artists that are coming.
What's that?
You almost make no money. Even when you start getting invited for events, everybody expects you to perform and do stuff for free. Nobody is expecting that you're going to take any money. That was one of the things I learned, that you almost do not make money make almost no money as an underground artist. So, I decided to get a job. I started working, I made sure I let everybody know I'm a singer, I'm an artist. So if you ever see me, I worked at a traditional law firm. So if you ever see me on social media, you'll not say I came to drag the firm's name on the streets, because I'm a lawyer. So it's very possible that your work and your art could clash. So it's important to disclose on time, so people are just prepared, how to engage with that part of you, And so I was always very open about this. I still did music at night, in the morning, weekends, whenever I could do it. And sometimes on my way to work, I wrote a poetry book, and the entire book was written on my way to and from work, because I spend a lot of hours in traffic in Lagos. So I learned to, just turn like my lemons to lemonade. But that's been my journey up until now. But now I wouldn't say that I worry too much about what the industry looks like, because it's what it is. And to be honest, I don't really know so much about it. But what I know how to do is I know how to create art. And so that may sound a bit naive, but that's really what my focus is on. That's as much as I can take right now.
Oh, wow. I mean, I think you said it best. And it reminds me of something Jordan Peterson said about creatives. He said, if you're a creative person, find a way to make money and practice your craft. If you don't use your creativity, you'll be miserable. And I think that's where the depression might set in. There's nothing wrong for you to make money from what you're good at. Maybe if you don't find a way to make money from what you're good at, have a steady source of income. Otherwise, you'll suffer. I mean, sadly, we live in a world where you need money to get by, and I'm glad you finally found that out before it was too late for you. So, to say it simply, we would say that I love your work, and I love your sound, I love your words especially, and you sing the way you also sing. You sing with such simplicity, but of course, it carries a lot of meaning. And I'll find myself just sitting, that particular song, the one Beautiful. And it resonated with me. And I remember, sharing with my friend, and he's someone that is, quite critical of songs. So I always make sure to come ready when we talk about music. And we have different tastes, we're going to be different people. But he gave a comment, was like, wow, he really likes the song as well. So let's talk about your creative process. Let's talk about just even writing the words and putting them together. And I know you and I have had this conversation, but because the audience were in there when we were doing our WhatsApp chat, who were the artists would you say have shaped your creative work? And I know these two people, because you confirmed that for me. I kind of sensed it from me. I'm like, this guy has to be a John Dalian fan. Okay, so anyways, I've given one away. But who are the artists who shaped your work, and how would you say it's been like for you not to really be too much under their shadow? You know how for me, I have some people that I really admire their art, but I always have to take breaks away from them, because I don't want to be like another spitting image of them. Like, I honor their craft, and they've helped me shape the way I write and think about the world, but I don't want to really be under their shadow. Otherwise, I'm going to be like, just another person that is not going to be me. So how's that been like for you? That push and pull, want to come closer, but you also want to be away from another light. So these are two questions in one.
So, thank you so much, Mo. Also, thank you for sharing my music with your friend. I appreciate that, because that's generally how people have gotten to know about me. I almost have no marketing whatsoever. What's my creative process? Who are the artists? So what I'll say about my sound, so I would differentiate my sound from my writing. So I've been singing longer than I've been writing, and I've been writing poetry longer than I've been writing music. So there's a bit of a distinction. It might not be clear to everybody, but there's a bit of a distinction for me. So for my music, I think that my music is more influenced by genres than people. So I started off singing classical music at 4 years old, or 4, I think. I was put into a very little children's classical music program, and I did that and I sang classical music till I was in my final class in high school. And so imagine singing from 4 till your final class in high school. So perhaps maybe 40 or 16. I also studied, like, did actual music till the 5th year in high school. So, like, the theory of music, so it was an actual thing that I studied. And so that was my sound. I didn't enjoy it much. Now I like classical music, but I didn't like it so much then because it's hard, it's very disciplined, you don't really do a lot. So there was a lot of, R&B music around. You don't sing an extra note in classical music, or, you sing exactly what is in the script and what you've been given. And so I didn't appreciate it. I appreciate it better now, So that was my background. Then gospel music, I sang in church. So I was in church choir. I was in all the choirs, the juniors. I sang a cappella too. So I've done a little bit of, then when I was in uni, I was in a band called Secret of David. That is where I would say I started really finding myself as an artist. In this band, you had to learn an instrument. So I picked the guitar, we learned the instrument, we did theory of music, we did all these things. And then we started writing. And in the band, we only sang our own songs. So we had to write the songs. So we had writing boot camps and all that. So that's where I would say I really gave myself the permission to start saying, oh, I wrote something. Would you guys look at it? And I don't think I thought it was good. I didn't think it was good. You had to write and submit something. So I wrote and submitted. Eventually, they started using some of the songs I wrote. But yeah, that was it. But in terms of songwriting, my confidence as a songwriter has come more recently, perhaps maybe 2 years ago. It's not as long as I've been writing. So I've only finally allowed myself to say, okay, this is how I write because of certain artists. Dante Bowie, John Bellion, Jonathan McReynolds, artists Brandy Carlisle, artists who just write. I didn't know you can really just write what you thought. I thought that you had to, because songwriting is a structure. You have to do this. You have the bridge, you have the pre-chorus, you have the chorus.
They've shown that thing about, yeah.
Then you have Adele who would write, Simi who would write. There's so many people who would just write stuff, and I'll be like, so you really can write. I remember hearing that, Simi, when she got into the industry, the music industry. So Simi Sola is a Nigerian artist.
Oh, yeah.
And when she got into the music industry, someone said people didn't like her sound because they said her voice was too light and Nigerians didn't like. I was so shocked because the first time I heard, I was like, yes. Yeah, so I really did feel like same thing with Thames, who everybody's making a big deal about now. So I feel like, so it's a thing. I think it's people's prerogative to say they don't like you, but I think as an artist, you should just know it's your job to do what you're here to do. And Chimamanda also says something. She says that as a writer, you cannot think of the audience at the time you're writing. So, my influences are definitely all these people. I mean, Dante Bowie, John Bellion, and another thing, the last thing I'll say about this is that I don't listen to them that much. I hardly ever listen to them. All these people, I love them, but the thing is that I listen to their work almost studiously, so I absorb it. I'm the average listener, and so I can be done with it quicker. And so I take it and I carry it with me, but I don't listen to them as often as people would think. But yeah.
I mean, that's, I don't even know what to say. Like, I think you've said it so well, especially with, and thank you for walking us through just how you started, like your path, and interesting about the classical music part of it. And just giving homage to those who have shaped you, but then you also finding your voice. And I think it's just the cycle of a creative. And I don't know if maybe in the beginning you struggled with, because I did when I even started writing and doing podcasts and all that, would be how much is you almost like, so there's this writer Cleon that feels like an artist, and I think it was when I read his book that it really set me free, because again,
thank you for sharing it with me. That was
you're
so
welcome.
Good.
Did you read more about him?
Okay. Child, I shared him with so many friends. You need to. I feel every artist needs to listen to him because he's just one of those people that comes to the scene and it's like, it's okay.
Yes.
Wherever you are, it's okay.
Yes,
so yeah.
Yes. Because there's nothing new, and we're combination of so many things, so many people that have poured into us. Sometimes it's even unconscious. I come up with some ideas and I know, okay, it feels original, but then is it really real original? Maybe I learned it by passive, diffusion, or maybe I read it somewhere many years ago, and so many things came together to form that idea. And sometimes you might not even be able to properly cite your sources, but sometimes, again, I feel like this is why when I'm in a creative mode, I don't like to watch or listen to anything or even read anything, because I want my thoughts to be, as pure, and I use that word very carefully, because nothing is ever really truly pure anymore. But I guess my question for you will be, for those that might be struggling with that creative part of them, as far as being authentic, because you gave us examples of how when you came to Lagos and being in a pool of, hyper talented people, and how Lagos always has that impact of it to humble you. But then how have you been able to, I guess, hone your craft this far? And I know you just started, and I know one day you're going to get to that point where, I want people to get to know more about your work, and how you're able to manage that will be a very different conversation, which we had. But I know with an artist, one of your goals really is to make sure that your work is getting to the right people. As far as the numbers, that's, very relative. So I guess my question for you would be, how have you been able to sustain your creative streak for so long? Considering those might be struggles to even, get started. People have like that failure to even launch. What has that taken, for you? And I imagine it takes a lot of discipline, but what kind of words of encouragement would you have for creatives who are still trying to struggle to find their voice, or even maybe hone their craft in a world that is already so super saturated? I don't know if that question makes sense. I kind of feel like I was rambling.
It made perfect sense to me. It's a hard question, but it made perfect sense to me. So I'll just try to slowly. I realize I also speak very fast, but I'll try to slowly speak and answer this question. So a friend of mine said something to me. A friend of mine said something to another friend who then said it to me, and he said to her that there's something very interesting about Koli. And he said it is that 15 years ago he was doing the same thing he's doing now. And so, yes, 15 years ago I was just 14, but I was writing poetry for people in school. So I didn't know that, I was writing poetry and giving to people. Oh, I wrote this for you, And so, but I wasn't trying to be a poet. I wasn't trying to be a poet. I just discovered that, writing was something I loved, and I would write about people and give it to them. And it always brought them so much joy to just, read something I wrote about them. I don't know. There's something about, writing something. There's something for people that it's not everybody who writing is their love language, but for people who, can receive the spoken word well or the written word well, that's a thing for them. For those people, there's something about writing for them that makes them feel seen, known, and I don't know, there's just something about it. And so I realized the power of art very early in my life, and it started from me. So the art changed me first. Writing for me for the longest time was just therapeutic. I would write things I couldn't say. I would write things that I was afraid to admit, and just really write traumas, experiences, right? So a lot of my work is about myself, especially a lot of my work leading up to last year. And so, what I'll say to people who are struggling with, just staying at it is that, you have to love it. And if you don't, be honest with yourself. I met this girl who said to me that she's about to quit guitar and she just wants to come to me and she hopes I can tell her something that will make her not quit. And I said, oh, how long have you been playing? And she said, 1 year. And I said, 1 year? You've been playing for 1 year and you're already ready to quit. I think maybe the fact that she wasn't getting engagement, she wasn't getting a lot of people liking her posts and stuff, and discouraged her. I've had so many performances that were so trash that I said, I promised myself I would never write again. But then a few days later, I'd recovered and I was writing again. Why? Because like writing. I wouldn't say that I'm disciplined. I'll say like it's just like second nature to me. I'm always somewhere writing. I may not be posting it, but I'm somewhere writing a song or writing a poem or writing a book or writing something. There's a lot of work that I write that nobody knows about. But and I have more work written. I have books and books of songs I've written and books of poems. Folders and folders of work that I've done that I haven't shared and I probably may never share. But I just think that it's just that, and it's not unique to me. I'm not unique for, it's just the process of almost every artist that everybody who is doing something out there is more talented than you may know. You learn that talent is the best minimum. Nobody claps for you or rewards you for being talented because that's just, it goes without saying that it's all the other stuff that makes you stand out. I think that for me, I've been doing the same thing that I'm doing. For instance, the videos, the poetry, and I've been sharing original work on my page. I hardly ever do covers. But how is it that now all of a sudden a few more people, and so it's not a lot of people, but a few more people are beginning to say, "Oh my God, I'm so moved by what you write and what you share." I don't think it's because I got smarter or I started writing better. I think it's because I was just there and one day they found my work or my work met them at the time when my work should have met them, when they could receive it. So, but I had to have been there at that time. I had to have continued up until that point. So I think you just do it. You don't worry too much about whether it's good, whether it's bad. I'll tell you this. I did this exercise. So I initially, when I used to share poetry, I used to share it with pictures. And so I couldn't tell initially whether people were liking the pictures or the poetry. So I didn't know whether I was getting better. So I was getting like, maybe I'll post this thing and I'll get 300 people like it. And for me, 300 likes was such a big thing because that was, I don't think I like it. So, yes, that's 300 people like it. But then I realized that it could be the picture that these people are engaging with. I decided to stop posting pictures of myself or pictures that had been taken or collaborating with other artists just yet because I wanted to grow as a writer. And I started posting just the poetry, and I went from 300 and something likes to 15, 10, 2, 3. And so I realized that I needed to reconnect. So people connected with the image of me, the person they liked with, and all this, or they connected with a picture that was very visually appealing. But for them to connect with the poem, I had to do the work. I had to find my own people, had to, write for them, write about them, and all that. So it's been a journey for me to grow back to those kind of numbers and that kind of engagement, but with just the art and nothing more. But it was something I challenged myself to do because I wanted to, be good at this. But because that's, for me, it's more important. I have all the time to become successful, but this is the best time to be good at what you do.
Well, you said it all. I think I don't even know what to even add. How do you top that? But one thing I picked a couple of things is, keep going, and you have to start somewhere, right? And I think one of the things one of my creative mentors told me about was just show up for yourself. When I feel like inspiration is going to come, then we can start writing. You just show up. When you're supposed to show up. Even if you're not writing a lot of stuff, even if it's just spending time thinking about what next you're going to write, but when you're supposed to show up, just show up. And I think from your work, it shows that you have that dedication, because I follow you on Instagram and you're showing up more and more. I know it's not everything you write that you share, but if I were to look at your Instagram page, I'm seeing more stuff come out from there, and even seeing you just sharing more and more of yourself. And so thank you for that response. And I hope, our listeners can be able to get one or two things from them, which is just showing up and also, keep going. Keep going. One day your people will find you. It might not be in the same way you wanted to, but, keep going. Now,
so I want to ask you a question. Can I do that?
Of course you can. It's rare to have people ask questions on the podcast, but I'm curious to know. Okay. All right. Yes, please go ahead.
So you said something about inspiration, and I just want to know, how does it work for you? Do you work when you're inspired, or have you gotten to that point in your craft or your mastering of your craft where you can call inspiration forth when you need it?
You know what? That's a very loaded question. I just thank God I have a full-time day job, because if all I depended on was on my craft for sustenance, I'll be the definition of a very hungry artist. And I don't have a lot of discipline when it comes to my craft, in the sense of I tend to always tie it to my emotions. Like you can always tell when I write things that I'm high on emotions because I just get the words out. I don't have to think about it. It's kind of like just busting through me. And those times are good because you need to put them out. And writing for me is a form of exercising the pain or whatever high emotions I'm feeling. But you can't always keep running on high emotions. And that's the part I'm still trying to learn. How to just write without having to wait for that emotion or that muse to be, or that monkey around your neck. And I think we've been sold a lie about inspiration. There's so many things that you can be inspired by. It doesn't have to be high. And I say that as someone that I don't think I'm very disciplined when it comes to my craft. I'm still always waiting for that high, which, is a very wrong way to be creative. And the problem I started seeing is that since I wasn't even honoring the process of showing up all the time, my creative juice is not flowing as much as I wanted to, because I've always relied on this hyper state of emotionality to create. But you shouldn't always wait for that. Just maybe give yourself 30 minutes a day. I'm just going to show up for myself. Whatever comes out, fine, put it out there. So I think I'm the wrongest person to ask that, because I think inspiration is something we've been sold a lie about. You shouldn't always write when you're inspired. I think writing or whatever you're creating, that's inspirational enough. So yeah, but again, I'm still learning.
That's so interesting, because for me, the reason why I ask that is because, I used to say that I'm one of those artists that needs inspiration to write, but now not so much. I realize that it's overrated. Writer's block is overrated. All these other things are just ideas that I receive from someone. What
Yes.
I actually have is not writer's block, is fear of being trash. So there's such high standards for work. And so every day I just tell myself that now the way I look at it is that my job as a writer is to write. It's not to write good work, because I don't have those standards for any other thing I do. As a lawyer, I don't expect to always, to win every case, I don't have unrealistic standards. And also I trained to be a lawyer for years and years. And then after I graduated from uni, I spent years and years still training to learn. And I'm still learning now after I finished law school in 2014, but in 2015 rather. But now I'm still learning. So I can't just start writing or put out my first album, and then the expectation to be, it's a thing that like we learn from, social media, the internet. Also we learn from just the way the entertainment world works and the media and entertainment world works. You get to hear the success stories, and they are crafted in a way that they'll be engaging. So they always push them to be too good to be true. The truth is, if you really meet these people and know the stories, it's very normal stories. Every writer I look up to has for every book they share, they have like 99 trash, things. Chimamanda, she lost this Kenyan friend. She used to share her work with him. This guy from Coldplay, he said the same thing, that they meet, they sing, and then they have
Chris Martin.
Yes. Yeah, they have baskets, they put the trash songs. And I can't believe that these people, Ed Sheeran recently released a video of a voice note of him in the studio trying to just play his guitar and sing, and how his voice was messing up, and everybody's always like, oh, you're so perfect. And he was like, no, I practice. And I think,
shocking.
Yes. So these human stories are very, very, very necessary for people like us, for people like me, who aren't, exactly there yet, and hold themselves to unrealistic standards. Everybody's it's just like every other job, So, it shows that your job gets to put you on TV sometimes, and gets to put you on. So that's just the difference. And so perhaps because your job is always on blast, that's why you always feel like you have to be perfect all the time. But it's not possible. We are just people. And that's not, so perfect music doesn't make you a good musician. Or perfect writing doesn't make you a good writer. The ability to connect is what makes you great at what you do. Even if your writing is so simple. In poetry, that, we are people who expect highfalutin, big words and everything. But sometimes the most known and the most successful poets are writing very simple English, because they are writing for people. They are not writing for other poets. They are writing for regular people, So that for me is just is something I'm trying to learn now. But I was interested in knowing what your own experience was. So thanks for sharing.
Oh yeah, that's it. Oh no, of course, and I totally agree with you. I have a friend who believes that writer's block is a myth. that it doesn't exist. Like if you tell him, he will argue with you like, no, it doesn't exist. And thanks for that reminder to just keep producing, and don't think about the audience. Think more about what you want to get out there, right? And what a perfect analogy of you, talking about you going to law school, like learning that craft and then practicing it, and you still don't even have, your goal is not always to win, even though you would like to win, but it's not always feasible, but you still show up for your clients, you still get your work done. Why can't that be the same with our creative outlet?
Yep.
So I have a couple of questions.
10 years later, I'm still afraid to. No, I was just going to add that, 10 years later, I'm still afraid in some circles to say I'm a lawyer because I still feel sometimes I haven't earned that title yet. And it's not imposter syndrome. It's just good old. I'm not. There are some things I just don't know yet. And so I think that we should also allow ourselves to exist in that space to us creatives. Sorry, go on. I'm sorry I interrupted.
No, please don't apologize. I mean, you are the guest, and so I want to ask you this next question, and it might make you blush a little bit because I reached out to a mutual friend for me about what kind of questions to ask you, and she wanted to know this. She said, and it's also going to tie to your music. Something she said about you, and I should say again, for me, somebody I respect her a lot, and don't tell her this. I hope she never gets to listen to this part. I heard it's on as well. When she passes compliments to people, you never really hear her give compliments out easily like that. But when she says things about people, I tend to believe her more than most other people.
If she gives me a compliment, I'm about to be very shocked.
Right. So yeah, she did. She said I should ask you, that you seem to understand women in a very weird way. That she actually said something like, you're one of the very few people that she knows that you have a deep understanding of women, and it flows her. And then in your office, they call you our sister. And I sense, I could see that in your writing, not this our sister part, but more of there's a tender sensibility about you, right? And it's not, I don't know how to describe it. You're able to access emotions that stereotypically we don't see in men. And it's not about weakness. It's just, there's a strength to it, right? And I imagine that there are men who are struggling to even express that part of it. But we are conditioned to live in a world where men should be setting, stoic and not show emotions and just be, very, somehow on the outside. I'm sure this is not the first time you're hearing somebody describe you as someone that is, well connected to that part of you that, seems to really understand women. But how did that come about? Was it, I know you have sisters as well, but how did that come about? And yeah, so that was the feedback she wanted me to give you, and also the question.
It's a very, very insightful question, actually, and I'm very, first of all, I've had so much fun here because, the questions that I haven't been asked these types of questions, anywhere else in any other kind of thing I've done. So, this is what I'll say about that. First of all, if I can attempt to answer the question. So the first thing is that I don't know. I didn't know that other men were not like this because I didn't really know a lot of other men. I just knew women. Growing up, I was surrounded by women. I was most of the people in my house growing up were women. My sisters, my cousins, my mother. Those were the people that, my father is an academic and he always worked outside Calabar, so he would be around during the weekends. My brother was in boarding school. So I really didn't know. I started knowing there was something different about me because, kids are mean. They'll say everything they see. And I was effeminate growing up. And so, I would have people say, oh, this is not how men behave. I didn't like the stereotypical things men like. I didn't like soccer. I didn't watch soccer. I didn't watch, there were just so many things that people did that and I also was a bit of that kind of kid that could make his own play by himself. So my music, you would be surprised. I wasn't doing music with a lot of people. I didn't have a lot of people it wasn't the thing that was done around me. I kind of chose my own path and my own interests, did the things I liked. And nobody really bothered me or tried to change me. But I got bullied a lot when I was growing up about it. So I always thought it was a bad thing. It didn't become a good thing until very recently. I once read this post on Facebook where they said the same things you were bullied about as a child are the very same things that make you a unique adult. And it resonated so strongly. They say I was teased about liking music, singing, writing poetry, all these things that now are like, oh my God, you do this and this is so amazing. There were things so it's taken me a bit of time to adjust to this. So what happened to me was that I developed a bit of a thick skin. I do care what people say, but people don't know that I do care what they say. And so I basically am what I am, and I would say what I want to say and express myself the way I would want to express it. And I always made people feel like I didn't care what they thought about it. Eventually people started believing I didn't care, and they just started falling in line, They would pick on other people, talk about other people, and then they'll leave me be. So I had a lot of space to develop my personality without, because I don't know. So I didn't really think of myself as unique or as...
This question you just asked me is a very important question to me, because it's a very, very important part of my process, and it gives like very, very deep insight to not just my art, but to who I am as an artist. So it's very, very insightful, and I like that you took it there. So for the longest time, I thought I only wrote for women. I didn't think I was. I thought I was talking to women, because that was the only audience I had access to, who I didn't know any man was, and that's one of the reasons why what has happened to me recently is very new to me, that men are DMing me, and saying, oh, they are reading my work and they are crying, and the fact that a man would admit that he cries, all these things are new to me, because, for me, I felt excluded from masculinity as a child because I didn't fit, so a man is a person, so I used to think a man is a person who liked blue, who watched football, who walked a certain way, who talked a certain way, who liked certain things. Initially, like, boys only like boys, then eventually boys started liking girls, but they don't like girls in the sense that they want to be friends with girls, So like the entire cycle of stereotypical masculinity, I felt excluded from that because that's not what my process was. But what I didn't know is that a man it's not easy to define what a man should be in just like a sentence. So I'm talking descriptive and describe a man in just one sentence. A man is a person who likes football, but as simple as this may sound to us now, because the world has taken the conversation there, I didn't have all these tools. I didn't have this range accessible to me. So I just felt like you just have to be what you are, and so I would write my thing, I would sing because I tried more, I'll say. I tried to, the other things, to try to, I learned to walk the way men walk, and after I've learned this, I've learned a new thing, speak, a certain way. They will still say there's one more thing you are not, So eventually I was just like, you know what, I'm happier when I'm just doing my own thing, And most of my friends were women, and most of the people who would hang out with me were girls, You know how girls, friendship for women is very different, Men, like, friendships has like limits, but for women, they go all the way, They would champion your causes, they'll show up for your events, I was referred to this show by a woman, so if
right.
So and women will give feedback. They'll say, "Oh, your work, this is how it impacted me." So I even have like an entire series of poetry that was written just to women. I wrote the first series, and then women said,
"The last love song,
yes,
the one about Nena, I like that one."
Yes, and they started DMing me, and girls started DMing me and saying, "Oh, I want you to write my story too." It was so deep. It was such a big deal for me to like have people write me back and say, "Please write about me too. This is my story." That level of engagement prior to perhaps this year or last year, I'd only ever really had it from women. So in my mind, my audience was women, and so when I would write, I'm thinking the person that is listening is a woman. I didn't think that men would say, "Oh, that is," and it's not because I felt like, "Oh, they are bad for not listening to I just felt like everybody had their audience, and I felt like the way I wrote, I felt it was a bit too exposing or too, the way men are socialized, it would take a bit more than they are willing to give to engage with work like this. So I didn't think I was, but lately I've been very shocked,
men would write me and everything, and I really, I'm here for it. Like, no shade, no. I'm very, very happy to like finally exist in a world where men can allow themselves to be other things other than like what the group says. But yeah, this is the reason why first of all, I was socialized in a community where most of the people around me were women, and so that was just how I was raised. And then which is not ideal, by the way, because boys need boys need men to also mentor them.
It's a good balance. You need both.
Yes, you need both. But the fact that I'm very, very in touch with what people would call stereotypically the feminine side is because that's how language was formed for me. That's how communication was formed for me. And I didn't know that, you could not cry, or you could not be emotional, or you couldn't, feel things, because nobody told me, don't do that. Men don't do that, until my character was already formed, by the time, like, I started knowing all these things. So that's why I sound the way I sound. And it's not me trying to speak to that audience. I just naturally, that's how the words come out of me, and that's how like the things come out. And it's actually a reflection of my real life relationships.
I mean, bravo. And I'm not going to ask you to speak on behalf of every man out there, because I know we also have stereotypes about men that we shouldn't have. But I'm glad you're saying ways to actually involve more people in your art. I mean, we know women consume more art than, men.
This thing you just said is the reason why male superstars, like studies have shown that this is the reason why more male superstars are bigger than their female counterparts, because most of the fans who engage with art are women, and women like generally feel like, would want to stand men more.
Yes. And then so the song I shared with my friend was beautiful, and I told him I dedicated that to him, because the song is about, no spoiler alert here, by the way, I'm going to link all the song. Yes, I sent to my male friend, because there's a part of it that says, you touch up your mask and you touch up your mask and then you leave the door, something like that. I don't remember the exact words. And he's someone that doesn't really know how to express himself a lot, and I wanted to give him that gift of me. We do this thing randomly where I send him songs like, this is your gift of music today, and I find like, or maybe he might share it with me. We kind of exchange art like that, and he was very touched by that. So even though you think you're writing to women, but it's also another validation that your song is also reaching across. And so I know that you just released an album this year, February 2022. Congratulations. In a world where it's easy to release a single here and there, because I'm able to listen to albums anyway. I think Beyonce, was it the other time, that was bemoaning the fact that people don't.
I'm surprised, and I was surprised with like people's reception.
Oh yeah, I mean, please keep it going. I love your jam session.
Because I think in projects.
Yes, the Owanyoma cover that you did with Margaret Abu and was it Salem?
Yes.
I think you should do more of that, because I mean, your album had just the audio part of it, which was okay. But I just love you saying your natural element, with your friends. You could just tell that you had a lot of fun during that pilot session. I'd like to see more of that. So that's one feedback from one of your fans. But tell us a little bit about just the album. I have my favorites of the songs there, but I think everything was good. But I just have my favorites. Like, you have many kids, but we always know there's always a favorite. Can you tell the audience the album and where they can get it as well?
So my album is on all music streaming platforms, the most popular ones. Please also follow me on YouTube. I'm trying to grow my YouTube following. But yeah, that's where you find my music.
And he forgot to mention it. It's called Welcome to My Joy. It has 7 songs in it, and 7 amazing songs. You can also find it on iTunes. And Koli, where can they find you on Instagram if you want them to follow you as well? What's your name on Instagram and on YouTube?
Man Like Koli on Instagram, Man Like Koli on Twitter.
In any event, this has really been fun. Talking to you about just, your work, and I think you're a beautiful person, and I think it shows in the kind of art you're trying to create, like showing us just the softer side of life. And I mean, we live in a world where some things are overemphasized than other things, And how much more coming from a man that is, quite as accomplished as you. And so I hope and I pray you keep, your craft going, because I know it's a matter of time for the right kind of people to find it. But I'm not worried about that, because you've shown that discipline over and over again. And so I cannot wait to see more from Koli. No pressure there, okay? And yeah, thanks for even sharing about your passion and things you're really into, and just your process behind it. It's also very humbling to see that, even though what we get to see is just what you put out there, but the behind the scenes, the struggles, the what has shaped you, and all those kind of fancy stuff. So on behalf of everybody on the podcast, I just want to say thank you so much, Koli, for sharing of yourself today and spending this Friday, I think this afternoon on your end, morning on my end, with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mo, and thank you everyone for listening. Thank you, Mo, for having me. I said to Mo at the beginning, this is my first podcast, anything, ever. And
don't worry, it's gonna come.
I enjoyed this.
And we get to be the privilege of, doing that first. But I know it's a matter of time before you start blasting the airways and get to radio and TV interviews. And then we'll say, start here first.
Yeah. Thank you so much, man.
And I'll put I'll put all the link to your socials and your music and everything on the podcast. But please, if there are other ways you want to come back, I'd love to have you back again, talk about whatever else you want to talk about, maybe an album launch or however we can help you. Please don't be far away from us.
Thank you, Mo. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye, guys. Bye.
All right. Bye.
To close off the show will be one of Koli's songs called Beautiful. It's actually my favorite song so far of the 7-song album he has. And I'm dedicating this song to every one of you listening to this episode. Now go do beautiful things. Thank you and have a good day. Bye.
I see the fire that you hide in your soul. If you're a hero, you're hiding it well. They don't see you coming, they don't hear you enter. Even when you're screaming, you blend in the crowd. And you never were one for loud jewelry or clothes. You never were one for exotic perfume. But I see you just as you are, and I call you beautiful. People are crying for help in your post. People are broken and don't even know. Put on your makeup and put on a show. They say your beauty's no longer in vogue. But I see your ordinary shoes and your clothes. I see your face and you don't even know that I see you just as you are. And I call you beautiful. Picking the pieces is straining your back. You'll need a friend, but you won't even ask. Wake up in the morning, just another morning. Touch up on your mask and you head out the door. And you're looking without for what's only within. Love is a person that's never fun. And he sees you just as you are, and he calls you